Out in Nicodemus, Kansas, time moves differently. It stretches out, slows down, and if you let it, it pulls you into the moment. There's no rush on a field like this, no clock chasing you forward, just the space between pitches, the quiet between innings, the kind of stillness that makes you look around and notice who's standing beside you. Because when people slow down long enough, they don't just watch the game, they find each other. And in a place like Nicodemus, that mattered. Baseball wasn't just something to pass the time. It was a reason for people to come together.
When it comes to a sport or it comes to teams and working together as a team for the love of the game, as they say. And I think that's why my dad liked it so much, because he had an opportunity to be with everybody. There was no segregation. It was truly for the love of the game.
Before there was a team, before there was a diamond, there was a promise of freedom. The end of slavery in the United States changed everything on paper. But for many newly freed black families, freedom also meant something more difficult: figuring out where to go next. In the years after emancipation, thousands of black Americans began moving west, drawn by land, by opportunity, and by the idea that they could build something of their own. One of those places was western Kansas, and one of those towns was Nicodemus. Founded in 1877 by black settlers and white land promoters, Nicodemus became the first black settlement west of the Mississippi River. A place built not just to survive, but to self-determine. Families arrived by train, by wagon, on faith and word of mouth. And what they built here was more than shelter. It was a community.
Nicodemus was one large little family. I know that sounds weird, one large little family, but we took care of one another.
Out on the Kansas prairie, distance wasn't just space, it was daily life. Towns were separated by miles of open land, wind, and weather, so when people gathered in one place, it mattered. Because from the beginning, Nicodemus wasn't just a place people lived, it was a place they created together. Game day rolls in, and it becomes more than just a game. People lining up beyond the outfield, dust along the baselines, families arriving from all across western Kansas. Different towns, different backgrounds, but all gathering in the same place. Because out on the prairie, there weren't many spaces like this, and baseball became one of the few shared ones.
Baseball was it. There wasn't anything else but baseball, and so whenever they had a game, everybody would come out for that. If the field wasn't in good shape, they would get out there with I can't remember that thing was called. It was like right now you have high powered equipment, but they didn't. They had a horse pulling a grader, and that was how they would smooth the field out and things like that. And they'd all work together to get the field all ready, and then they'd get out there and start playing.
Here's the wind-up pitch on the way. Swing, ground ball towards short. Fielded cleanly, the throw across the diamond in time. Same field, same moment, and for a few innings, a community connected in real time.
Believe it or not, I think baseball in itself was the great equalizer. You had teams in other areas that they played in those, just the general area that they played. And so that camaraderie between the teams and amongst themselves was great. We had a period baseball game where we invited some of the guys that used to play for Stuttgart. And Stuttgart is a little town, not this, it's north of here and a little west, probably about at least 30 miles. And maybe even a little bit further. And I remember when I met some of those guys, those old guys that were playing at the time, they talked about coming to Nicodemus and playing. And whenever they played, the black players of Nicodemus, they were always enthusiastic about that.
And then the game expanded, rolling into towns like Nicodemus, the Kansas City Monarchs. One of the most successful franchises in Negro League's history, Founded in 1920 at the birth of organized black professional baseball, they didn't just play the game, they helped bring it to places like this. Dozens upon dozens of stops in a single season, long bus rides, constant travel, game after game after game. Because for many teams in the Negro Leagues, a season wasn't just a schedule, it was a journey. And the Monarchs, they didn't just barnstorm the country, they brought championship baseball with them.
There was quite a bit of called farm teaming from the professionals that would come out in this part of the country and try to find talent, so there would be a group of guys that would come out and actually, professionals guys that come out and actually play, and they would pick up some of the better players in the community and make a team out of it, and they would go around to some of these other towns and play them.
And just like Nicodemus was shaped by distance, so was the game that came through it. The Negro League stretched across long roads, wide states, and towns separated by miles of open country. Places where you didn't stumble into a crowd, you waited for one to arrive. So when a team like the Monarchs came through a place like this, it wasn't just another stop, it was a gathering.
It went beyond the borders of the town. It went into the whole region, of people playing different teams. And then, of course, with the Kansas City Monarchs and the other Negro League teams, it became really big. It just was. To me, I didn't live, obviously, during that time period, but I can imagine what it was like. I know what it has been like to have period games here, and you've got people from all over that come to watch the game. So I can imagine what it was like in its heyday, with people coming from all over to watch.
The Negro Leagues were formed because black players were barred from Major League Baseball. But what grew in response wasn't lesser baseball. It was elite baseball. Fast, skilled, innovative, and deeply tied to the communities that came together to watch it. And at the center of that world was Satchel Paige. He wasn't just another pitcher passing through. He was the show. Satchel Paige, the ageless wonder. Born in Alabama, barnstorming across the country, pitching wherever the game would take him. Because at the time, the highest level of baseball wasn't open to him. So instead, he became a part of a league that brought people together wherever it went. Long strides, smooth delivery, a fastball that seemed to gain on hitters. He could place it where he wanted, sometimes even telling his fielders to sit because no one was going to touch it. Dominant for decades, the reputation unmistakable, and wherever he pitched, the game itself became the gathering point.
When the Kansas City Monarchs came and they brought in Satchel Paige that year, and old Satch, I guess he was a ham. He used to, razz the other players and talk about, this guy, he can't hit. Told the infield and the outfield, just come in, I'm gonna strike this guy out. He would do all those kind of antics. Well, old Freddie got up to bat. I don't know if he had what antics he had, but old Freddie took it out of the park on him. Pissed him off. So that old boy, he wasn't too happy about Freddie taking it out of the park on him. But Freddie was a heck of an athlete. He was I'd say 6'3" or whatever, 200 plus. He's a big boy and was a hell of an athlete. And fast, hit, throw. He was a good athlete. Like I say, that story, it still resonates throughout history here in this town. It's like, Freddie knocked the ball out of the park with, Satchel Paige.
Paige comes set into the windup, delivers a fastball right up the pipe for strike one. Freddie Schweitzer digs back in. Paige sets, kicks, deals, Schweitzer swings, he drives it to left. That ball is high, far, and gone. Freddie Schweitzer hits a home run off the Satchel Paige. And that's not just another swing. That's a local player on a field like this, connecting against one of the greatest pitchers the game has ever seen.
Well, what I know about my father in baseball, that was his passion. And he played on a lot of teams, but the team I remember him playing the most on was over at DeMar, Kansas. And that's where we would go over and watch him play baseball at night. They had a baseball field and was well lit. And that's where the games were held. that we attended as kids. Of course, I didn't pay any attention to it during that time because we were busy playing, you know. But if he was up to bat, we knew we'd get a home run, and so we'd be out there trying to find the ball. And he always usually did. Hit a home run. Yep.
Oh, he's gonna lose the ball again. I remember because when my dad got ready to, don't hit it so hard, Boo or Ike. That was another nickname. And they would lose it, like my sister said. Then her and my brothers would have to go get those baseballs.
Because in a place like this, moments didn't end when the game did. They stayed. That connection didn't fade. It carried forward. And over the years, baseball kept drawing people back, including figures like Buck O'Neil, first baseman for the Kansas City Monarchs, a manager, and later one of the game's most important ambassadors. He wasn't just a part of Negro League's history. He helped preserve it, spending decades telling the stories of players, teams, and communities that shaped the game. Known for his warmth, presence, and the way he could make history feel alive in the moment. Because for Buck O'Neil, baseball wasn't just about what happened on the field. It was about the people it brought together. So when he came to places like Nicodemus, he wasn't just visiting. He was continuing something. Connecting generations through the same game that had brought people together here for decades.
Oh, it was a ball. I mean, like I said, everybody that did, even though it was hot and dry in the summer, you know, and everybody complained about that, but they was out there. They were out there watching and cheering it on, you know. And it was the last one we had, like I said, it was pretty funny because we had a team out of, can't remember exactly where they were out of, either El Emporia or something like that. Anyway, they had a pretty decent team, and they had got a lead on us. And everybody like, oh my God, you know, Nicodemus gonna lose? And then we rallied. We came back and beat them, and oh man, that was exciting.
Homecoming in Nicodemus. Pitch on the way. Swung on and a line drive into center field. It'll be down for a hit. Runner rounds first. He's digging for second. Trotting his way all the way to third. A head first slide. The throw is not in time. And just beyond the field, stories are still being shared. The box score never told the whole story here, because what mattered most wasn't just what happened on the field. It was what happened around it and who it brought together.
Baseball, it was really good when it's a slower game. And during that generation, it was a slower time, and folks was able to relax and enjoy it more. Now we're at this fast pace, and we got to have a fast-paced game. You know, you got to have stimulus, and you know, if you don't have stimulus every few seconds, you know, you get bored. You have to move on.
This wasn't just a place to play baseball. It was where barriers were broken and where people came together as one. Just a level playing field for the love of the game. So what is there to learn from small-town baseball in Nicodemus? It's that sometimes all it takes to strengthen a community is a ball, a few mitts, some bats, and a willingness to slow down and truly cherish those around you.